There are certain UFC fighters who are ranked in the top 15 where certain incidences occurred which resulted in them losing their spot. So here is 10 fighters who have fallen out of the rankings. Number 10. Carlos Condé was once one of the most dangerous strikers in the welterweight division who had remained at the top of the weight class for a very long time. His great striking base helped him challenge for the title numerous times, where he was able to capture the interim UFC welterweight title at UFC 143. In recent years, he has had trouble against the top 10 welterweights, which has forced him out of the top 10 rankings. In his last fight, he was submitted by Alex Oliveira by a guillotine choke at UFC on Fox 29. He is currently on a 4-fight losing streak and desperately needs to win to remain a top name in the weight class. Number 9. Renan Barão was once the most terrifying bantamweight on the planet, who was just dismantling his opponents in a brutal fashion. When he got viciously beat down by TJ Dillashaw at UFC 173, he hasn't looked like the same fighter. He has been defeated left, right and centre by many younger fighters and has become a gatekeeper of the top 15 rankings. He lost his number 15 spot when he lost his last fight to Brian Kelleher by unanimous decision at UFC on Fox 28. He is currently on a 2-fight losing streak, where another loss may result in his release. Number 8. Yair Rodriguez has always been an exciting fighter to watch in the UFC's featherweight division, where his fighting style always delivers a good show. He always likes to take risks in his fights and throws crazy unorthodox strikes, stunning his opponents. His 6-fight winning streak came to an end when he was beaten down by Frankie Edgar at UFC 211. He was unexpectedly released from the UFC for not accepting a fight with Zabit Magomedsharipov and lost his top 10 ranking spot in the division. He would later meet up with the UFC and was accepted back in the promotion. Yair Rodriguez is one of the most exciting fighters and definitely deserves his top 10 ranking spot. Number 7. Ben Rothwell made his surge towards the top of the heavyweight division when he came back and started to just finish fighters in a very scary manner. He was pulling off crazy go-go chokes and had put together a 4-fight winning streak where he was on the verge of a title shot. All of this came to an end when he lost to Junior Dos Santos at UFC Final 86. Things became worse when he was notified of a potential doping violation by USADA and was removed from the heavyweight rankings. He is currently serving his 2-year suspension and will be eligible to fight in 2019. Number 6. Michael Johnson was a top name in the lightweight division for many years, where he was able to beat some of the best names in the weight class. He had victories over Tony Ferguson, Edson Barboza, Dustin Poirier and many more. He is known for his lightning fast hands, where he was able to flatten a lot of fighters with a single strike. In recent years, he has struggled to start a run, where after suffering 2 losses to both Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje, Michael Johnson had lost his lightweight ranking spot and made the drop down to the featherweight division and was submitted by a rear naked choke to Darren Elkins at UFC Final 124. He is currently on a 3-fight losing streak, where another loss may result in his release. Number 5. Chad Mendes was always one of the biggest names in the featherweight division, who was known for his great wrestling base and his knockout power. He pushed Jose Aldo to the absolute limit at UFC 179, where he had him hurt many times during the fight. After the 5 rounds, the unanimous decision was given to Jose Aldo. He was last knocked out by Frankie Edgar at the Ultimate Fighter 22 finale. After the fight, he was notified for a potential doping violation by USADA and was removed from the featherweight rankings. Chad Mendes is one of the best featherweights in the world, who always puts on a great show whenever he fights. Number 4. Anderson Silva is one of the biggest names in the UFC, who went to put on spectacular performances in the promotion. His fighting style helped him become a massive draw in the UFC, where he has one of the best highlights in the roster. His crazy victories include knocking out Vitor Belfort with a front kick and completely shutting down Forrest Griffin at UFC 101. He last defeated Derek Brunson by unanimous decision at UFC 208. He was pulled from his scheduled fight with Kelvin Gastelum as he was notified for a potential doping violation by USADA and has been removed from the middleweight rankings. Hopefully he walks away from the sport with a win when he is eligible to return to action. Number 3. Cain Velasquez is one of the most intimidating fighters in the UFC's heavyweight division's history, where he has brought down top heavyweights in a very scary manner. He is known for just breaking his opponent's will and has used his wrestling to just punish his opponents. His last appearance in the UFC was a TKO victory over Travis Brown at UFC 200. Since that fight, he has been dealing with a back problem, and due to his inactivity, he has been removed from the heavyweight rankings. Cain Velasquez's injuries has prevented him from being active, and the heavyweight division has progressed so much without him. Hopefully he can make a successful comeback and reach the top once again. Number 2. George St. Pierre was the long-reigning UFC welterweight champion who was just shutting down all of his opponents in a very dominant fashion. After defending his title for the 9th time at UFC 167, he decided to take a break from the sport and vacated his title. In 2017, he announced that he was returning to active competition, where he would move up to the middleweight division for the first time and challenge then UFC middleweight champion Michael Bisping at UFC 217. In the fight, he would drop Michael Bisping with a left hook and sunk in a rear naked choke to get the victory. GSP was now the UFC middleweight heavyweight champion, and only after 34 days vacated his title due to an illness where he was removed from the middleweight rankings. GSP has done so much in the UFC and doesn't have nothing left to prove. Number 1. Jon Jones is considered to be the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet, who had made great fighters look like amateurs. He has defeated just about all of his opponents in a very dominant manner and doesn't seem to have a clear weakness. His fighting style involves a lot of very unorthodox strikes combined with a great wrestling base. His last appearance inside the octagon was when he knocked out Daniel Cormier at UFC 214 to become the new UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. He was later stripped of his title due to testing positive for turinabol, where his win was overturned to a no contest and he was removed from the light heavyweight rankings. Jon Jones is certainly a very talented fighter whose skill set is just on a different level.